All right. So today's program, again, in this podcast, we always try to talk about something that's unique, but is also pretty relatable and can be used pretty instantly for our colleagues here. So we have Lori and Jill here. Thank you so much from the Inactive Company. Thanks for just giving me some of your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no. Thank you for having us, Darian. We appreciate it. Great to be here.
Well, this is a topic I really think would be interesting, talking about working with irregular shift workers. And in our case, with our audience, working with clients who are traveling regularly, working night shift, all these different things. But let's dive into a little bit because I love operational definitions of things. We often get tripped up because we actually don't know what things mean often the time. So would love for one of you to talk a little bit about. I just talked surface about it, but how would we define irregular shift workers?
So it's a really interesting topic because what we talk about a lot is training yourself to sleep, and you were born to sleep in a cycle. Your circadian rhythm, and when you even in the womb, is already set to sort of work when the sun goes down. And then when the sun comes up, you're sort of wired to wake up again. So for irregular shift workers, they have to sort of retrain their body and their sleep routine in order to shift their circadian rhythm to make sure that they're optimizing their sleep. So part of that is getting into a good routine, making sure that your brain can still start producing that melatonin to make you fall asleep. So you've got to create the environment, which is part of a lot of what we talk about and what our products help you do.
And a regular shift worker could be anybody from what you would traditionally think of like a first responder, firefighters, police officers, etc., medical professionals that work night shifts, and others that kind of come to mind typically. But also, I think you have to think about irregular shift workers also as just you and me, because we're busy people, and especially if you have a professional business, you have a family, you are typically challenged by getting consistent regular sleep that Jill was just talking about. And so you're constantly trying to shift your sleep to maximize and get enough sleep. But still, I think a lot of us struggle with, especially if we're traveling, really being consistent and regular. So in some ways, everybody is a shift worker or
That's really
sleeper.
interesting. And Lori, it makes me think of um, we have a large remote workforce.
Mhm.
And in many ways, you could say remote work is irregular shift work
Exactly.
because there's often no start and end time for a lot of people. And it could really be hazardous to your sleep cycles based off of you just can work anytime you want.
Well, and I'll tell you what,
And I do.
confessing, when COVID hit, I sort of went back to my college days and said, I'm just going to do this tonight, or I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. I'll bang this out, whatever. And that is the worst thing any of us can do. So I literally had to resist that urge and retrain myself to stay regular and consistent to, based on, to answer
I'm
the
guilty of it for sure.
Yeah, I think we all are guilty of it. It's interesting to come from a place of talking about something, but also knowing it intimately in many ways
Yeah.
too for that. So what are some things our irregular shift workers are dealing with in terms of their sleep and their struggles? Just so we also can kind of start looking at the symptomology of this and understanding what is the struggles. If a client comes to me and they say, hey, and this happens regularly, they are traveling every week for work, they're on a plane.
Mhm.
What is the struggle that they're dealing with primarily or struggles?
I mean, really, it's like I said, it's really the struggle is getting into a sleep routine that will signal your body to start shutting down so that you can optimize your sleep every day. And that might change. I mean, we work with a lot of professional athletes and it changes weekly, sometimes daily for them when they're in hotels. So really, that is the biggest struggle because everybody has some sort of challenge, whether it's noise from another room or it's light coming in from under the window, or it is my room is too hot and I'm not really sure what to do about it. So really being able to sort of say, this is what works for me. And this is sort of my routine that I'm going to take with me wherever I go.
I think one of the other things, Darian, in addition to what Jill just said, which is so true, is that shift workers don't realize, they don't have a great awareness of the fact or accountability for the fact that they're not optimizing their sleep or getting enough sleep. In fact, there was a Harvard study done of 7,000 firefighters, for example, where almost half of them didn't realize they weren't getting enough sleep, but they were suffering from sleep disorders. And athletes tell us all the time, and they're also, research has shown that they're guilty of not really getting it, that they're not getting enough sleep to that the sleep that their body needs. So just that awareness is also a big hurdle and an issue.
What's been the disconnect for the lack of awareness, you think?
Sleep when you're dead culture,
Mm.
really that fact that it's a badge of honor to not sleep a lot and be proud of it and power through the day. And so we've all tricked ourselves into thinking that we are as good as if we had slept the required 7 to 9 hours our body needs, but we're not. And, research also shows that when you don't sleep 7 to 9 hours a night, you can't make good decisions. You don't
Correct.
have a good mood. Your reaction times are way slower. You're not accurate. You have accidents. There are problems, so it doesn't matter who you are. And some jobs, especially for shift workers, are critically, they manage life and death situations. You have to be your best. So I think that it really is mindset that is the biggest disconnect. And we've trained ourselves, particularly Americans, to, gosh, you should be grateful if you get 2 weeks of vacation a year. You should work
Right.
work until you're just about to drop. So it's sleep, redefining sleep culture, I think, is the biggest issue.
The other disconnect is people relate being in bed with sleeping. So they're like, I was in bed, but I was reading or looking at my phone or like, in that really, you need to shut everything down and shut your brain down. So just because you're in bed doesn't mean you're reading.
And if you're playing video games or looking at your phone, doom scrolling, talking, whatever, you're making it that much worse. You think you're resting, but you're not sleeping.
Most definitely. All great points and things I talk to my clients about regularly, actually, and have someone after this. So I'm going to be talking about this again, actually. So it's all very relevant. So let's jump into some strategies here. I think one of the things people like about the podcast is that we just get into, hey, what can I do? So I know this is probably going to cover a lot of things here, but for our regular shift workers, what are a few very instant strategies that they could do to actually start understanding their sleep patterns, but also making a change, behavioral intervention to get better sleep for them?
Wear a sleep mask when you go to sleep. No, really. I mean, I think it's sort of like, take the first step, admit to yourself, like, I need to start a sleep routine. And whether or not you're wearing a sleep mask, it's have the mindset, call yourself on it, set your alarm for no less than 7 hours. Tell yourself, I'm going to start turning everything off 30 minutes before it's time to sleep, and really start training your brain almost Pavlovian style. Like, when I see my bed, I see my sleep mask, I put my phone away, your shoulders start to drop, your eyes get a little sleepy. I mean, it really does. Sleep is not magic. It's actually something that you can train for and perfect. And you
Agreed.
have to do that like you would train for anything else. You've got to train for it.
And speaking of shifting the mindsets, we talk about sleep hygiene in terms of something that people in your world may relate better to, and that is develop a sleep warm up. Just like you stretch before you work out, you need to power down and do the things that Jill said. And then consider your sleep workout. It is as important that anything you do movement wise when you're awake. It's cleansing your brain. It's regenerating your muscles. It's literally hitting every system in your body. So changing your mindset around sleep is productive. That's why we're called the Inactive Company, because we really wanted people to understand that just because you're laying there doesn't mean your body isn't working just as hard as when you're doing a workout. I would also
Most
say that in addition to kind of paying attention to how you power down at night, think about how good sleep actually starts the minute you wake up in the morning. And an easy thing to do is to get morning sunlight in your eyes. Have your first cup of coffee or tea outside if you can. If you can't, sit by a window and, just sit in the sun if you can and just get some light into your eyes. If it's a cloudy day, you're still getting that light that kind of anchors your circadian rhythm and begins to set you up for a good night of sleep 12 hours later.
for our, I'm going to start getting to different irregular shift workers here. So this is one's pretty common, especially with my clients, and I know a lot of my colleagues. There's your weekly business traveler. Now I know you mentioned sleep masks. I have sleep masks. I'm very serious about sleep, so I'm all about this. But I think a lot
Good
of
for
my
you.
colleagues were just getting into someone who's traveling every week and they're going to a variety of different time zones. What are some kind of easier things or some quick things they could do to start to better train themselves for better sleep in that schedule they have?
Don't be extreme. As you try to change your schedule, shift in 15 to 30-minute increments, resist the urge to arrive at your destination and sleep for 6 hours. That's not helpful. So shift slightly and give yourself the time to catch up. You can bank sleep. You can sleep more before you leave on a trip, and that's helpful. You can nap, but don't nap longer than 30, max 60 minutes. But really it's about sort of subtly shifting to help your body transition to a new time zone and schedule, not an abrupt, here I am, I'm going to sleep half a day and then I'll wake up refreshed. It
And
really,
take your sleep routine with you. Like it's the whatever you're doing at home, also do it on the road. Because again, it's the signal, it's behavioral. So it doesn't really matter where you are or what time is it. As you start getting into a routine, your body will say, that's my signal. I got to start relaxing.
Let's talk more about banking sleep. I don't think a lot of my colleagues probably have heard of this so much. Let's dive more into that and what does the literature say about banking sleep? Because I have to be honest, I haven't heard much about this myself.
well, we always like to first say we are not sleep doctors. So we don't want to talk above our pay scale, but we do pay attention to the research that of primary sources like Harvard Medical School, the National Institute of Health, et cetera, and to some very prominent sleep doctors. And sleep banking, just like naps, is a real thing. But just like I said, you have to be intentional about it. You have to say, I'm going to leave in 2 days. So tonight I'm going to sleep 30 minutes longer. I'm not going to run myself ragged for the 2 days prior to leaving on an overnight flight, across the ocean. So you have to kind of just plan ahead and talk to yourself around, I'm going to go 80%. I'm not going to go 110% for the day before I have to travel from Atlanta to London. And then you bank up a few extra minutes, and we're not talking about hours, but you have a few extra minutes so that then you can help start manage a subtle shift to the new time zone while you're there.
It makes a lot of sense with that. Now, just to be clear, so like you said, not hours. I think a lot of people think, I'm just going to sleep a couple hours, add that in. So we're saying that that's actually probably a negative at that point versus just doing some minutes for that.
Yep. If you just think about it the same way the literature talks about naps, it's similar. You don't want to take a 3-hour nap in the middle of the day when you're home. It's not helpful. It can be very helpful to take a 20, 30, 40-minute nap in the middle of the day when you're home. Same with if you're traveling and you're trying to shift time zones. You just can't, you're groggy, you're not doing yourself any favors. I mean, I wish I could tell you exactly what's happening with your brain and your body, but it's not helpful.
Most definitely. What about the use of melatonin for clients when they're traveling regularly? Can we talk a little bit about that?
So melatonin occurs naturally in your brain, and the most effective way to optimize melatonin is to make sure that you're in an environment that has complete blackout, because that is the true signal to your brain to produce that melatonin, and that's actually what makes you fall asleep. Everybody reacts differently, and it's really funny because when Lori and I started this company, like I was ODing on melatonin, and I would falling asleep's not my issue, staying asleep is my issue. So I would wake up in the middle of the night. I would actually take a lot, fall asleep, sleep hard, and then wake up and I couldn't get back to sleep. Everybody reacts differently, but if you can actually, again, train yourself to fall asleep as naturally as possible with a blacked out environment, you're better off than actually taking over the counter melatonin. It is immensely helpful for some people. Now, there are people who don't produce enough on their own, and that's kind of where it started, was helping those people fall asleep. But it shouldn't be treated as an ongoing sleep aid, because your body does start to metabolize it. So at some point, it won't work for you anymore.
How can, I don't know, I just thought of this when you said that. How can someone find out if they're not producing enough melatonin in their body?
That's a great question. You'd probably have to be diagnosed. I'll see if I can cite a study for you.
But I
Yeah,
think,
'cause I'm thinking about someone who's, if I'm
Yeah.
telling someone that, at least I'm thinking, I'm like, well, how would I know that? Like, that I think would be pretty interesting to know.
Let me see. I'm looking at my notes, see if I can find the answer
Do
while we talk about.
it. Sorry, Laura, you're going to say something?
well, I was just going to say that it is, taking melatonin externally doesn't work for everybody, even if you are producing melatonin. And, I think it's important just here to say you also don't want to rely on Benadryl or, any other kind of aid like that some people take for sleep, because that really is not good for your brain in the long term. It's
Yeah.
turning your brain completely off, and there's a lot of research around that. Melatonin, a lot of people, and I'm mentioning it because a lot of people think of melatonin as being benign, and that's what we thought about Benadryl. Benadryl was in everything, and people were taking it off label as a sleep aid because we all thought it was not harmful. And guess what? Turns out it is. So I think the same with any kind of supplement. Melatonin is a supplement, it's not regulated. So just use it cautiously and carefully.
So here's the answer. The symptoms are what you would think they would be: difficulty falling asleep, waking up repeatedly, feeling tired during the day, super groggy, memory lapses, those types of things. And your primary care provider can do a blood or urine test to measure your melatonin levels and then counsel you after that. So it can be tested.
I find that pretty interesting because I don't think I've ever had that conversation
Oh.
with a client that maybe you're not producing enough melatonin,
Yeah.
which I think is pretty unique. It's something I would definitely have to add into my practice to discuss that. When someone tells me these are the things they're struggling with
One way
related to
to
that.
Right. One way to do your own test is perhaps to wear a sleep mask that provides 100% darkness, because if
Right.
you are not getting 100% darkness, and if you listen to Andrew Huberman, he's, cited all sorts of research around this very fact. If you don't get absolute 100% darkness, you can't get your own internal signal to your brain to produce melatonin. So even if there is a red light attached to a screen, still on at night in your room with that's otherwise dark, that is impacting the production of your melatonin naturally.
Would you think that it would be good to discuss? I never thought about this, but I think it'd be interesting. Part of a strategy is when, for your business travelers, whether they're booking hotels and places like that themselves or someone at the company, is that they need to really focus on finding accommodations or lodging that works for their sleep schedule and for the darkness for that. Because I find when I travel a decent amount, most places that I stay are nowhere near like my house. Like I have the full on 100% darkness in my room. I can't even see my hand in front of my eyes. Like at night, I need it to be super dark. but I find that most places don't do that. And
No,
so
they
it
don't.
may
No.
require more work for a person to figure that out.
Which is why we came to the sleep mask and why we decided this needed to be re-engineered and innovated. It's 100-year-old product that no one ever really considered for how can we use it to how can we build it to achieve complete darkness no matter where you are. The second factor to producing melatonin and to inducing sleep is coolness. So we were asking, why hasn't anyone built kind of a temperature regulation naturally into a sleep mask? Because if you can't afford a fancy hotel that has blackout curtains and nice cooling mattresses and that sort of thing, a sleep mask is an affordable solution that is easy to travel with that can accomplish the same thing. So it's really interesting how we make it really complicated, which also stresses us out and makes us sleep less. But if you keep it simple and you're just consistent and you find a tool or two that works for you and you start appreciating the benefits of sleep and you really internalize how good sleep is for you, I think a lot of people would be surprised how sleep comes more naturally and they'll get more.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. You know what's interesting? I always find when I talk to clients that, and they, are struggling with their mood regulation
Mm-hmm.
and emotional regulation. I always, Jill's like, let me raise the hand here. And I always tell them, I said, and they're like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I don't want to like go off the hook all the time and I'm irritable. And I say, actually, if you just slept better, it'd probably get rid of most of that for you.
100%.
You would feel more even
Yeah.
regularly as a person. But I think what we as humans do, we often jump to the more complicated idea or treatment to treat something instead of mastering the basics. It couldn't
Well,
Exactly.
possibly that you're sleeping
people
less.
most
Exactly.
people don't realize that sleep isn't just, I mean, your body is working really hard and you have to be asleep for it to work really hard. So it strengthens your immune system, it strengthens your cognitive ability, it improves your memory. It does all these things for you. And the other reason that people don't talk about it so much in the culture that we live in is that sleep is the only human performance factor that you cannot replace. You can't cheat it, you can't fake it, you can't drink a tonic for it, take a pill for it. Your body must sleep, and we were designed that way. And so, in our today, and I also guilty of buying everything off of Amazon and Instagram. You can't buy anything for sleep. So people will default to, oh, let me try, this smoothie with, something in it that will it might make you go to sleep, but it's not replacing your sleep.
Right. And people are often using different aids and that are basically just sedation for
Correct.
people versus actually having deep sleep, REM sleep, things of that nature.
Right.
So how will we approach not our business traveler, let's say, and this is pretty regular, kind of your night shift nurses, your shift workers, actually casino workers are great. I lived in Vegas for a long time. A lot of people work in casinos overnight and they struggle with how do I fit in exercise with this crazy, insane schedule that I have? And also, how do I get great sleep so I can have good exercise sessions for that? How will we approach this?
God love them because the casino workers in particular are standing in the most brightly lit room for,
Yeah.
the entire shift. And that could be, as you said, and probably is in the evening, worst time ever. Um, and they may try to work out after their shift, which just raises their cortisol and makes them even less likely to go to sleep. So I think probably the best strategies are to work out earlier, pre-shift, make sure that you are doing kind of the morning basics to set yourself up for an evening of sleep success, like the morning light, but then work out earlier on the earlier side. Stop drinking caffeine by noon because the half-life of caffeine is 6 hours and you'll be feeling it later. Even if
Right.
you're thinking you need it to get through the shift, try without it and see what happens. I bet you'll manage. And I think probably blacking out when you get home, the sleep mask again, we keep harping on this, not because we're a sleep mask company, but because it just makes so much sense. Literally, we have clients, athletes who are traveling now overseas to go to football games, playing at night, playing in the afternoon, all different times of day, all over the US, even different time frames. And they're recognizing that just the simple visual cue of I'm going to put on this mask and I'm going to black out the world. If you're coming off from your casino shift and all that light and you suddenly achieve 100% blackout by putting on this, we call it a performance tool, you will get better sleep. I mean, it really is just shifting to time to go to sleep.
And when we say blackout, we mean darkness.
Yes.
We don't mean lose your mind.
No, exactly.
Just to be clear
Yes.
for your
I want to be
listeners.
clear here. Like, you're not just getting blackout. Like, wow,
Yeah,
just done.
we keep saying someone's going to tune in at the wrong time.
That's
I
right.
know, we're like,
Not
what
a-
is
not a
this
case
blackout?
of
What?
beer,
Like,
not 10 shots.
yeah, 10 shots blackout. You're good. No, we're not supposed to. No,
Then you'll
no.
need your sleep mask in the morning when you have a hangover.
They're by there. I had
So
college.
speaking of, yeah, right. So speaking of sleep masks, you mentioned like the design of the sleep. Now all sleep masks are not created equal. In this,
No.
I tried a ton of them, and this is, I think, a really good moment here in this podcast to teach what is a really effective sleep mask to use for regular shift folks, or if you're just traveling somewhere for summer vacation, whatever. And because that's always a struggle. I have that for myself and other clients where you're like, oh, I'm just going somewhere 4 or 5 hours away, and that first night of sleep's just so terrible when you get to the hotel or wherever.
Well, the sleep mask that we designed, Lori really designed it, is we have a patent on ours. And it's because we incorporated all of the features and benefits that address the needs of your body to help you fall asleep, like 100% darkness. It is customizable to your face and head size so that you can achieve that. You push it around Lori, you can model. You can actually push it on your nose and eyebrow. We do have a phase change material that helps with thermoregulation. So it actually absorbs the heat off your face, leaving your face feeling cooler because your body temperature rises as your circadian rhythm starts to wind down. And that's one of the things that makes you wake up. So if you can stay cooler a little longer, you'll sleep a little longer. We actually tested this with a third-party testing company. You can sleep up to 30 minutes longer. Comfort is also key. So hopefully you can find a mask with ours. Doesn't have any hardware. There are others out there. We actually have a self-stretching elastic strap so that you can place it on your head where you want, but also if it's a little tight, you can pull it and it self-adjusts. That's super key. And it's ergonomically designed. It's super light. You can actually open your eyes completely underneath. And if you have super long eyelashes or falsies, they won't bump the inside of the mask because we designed it with like this concave pocket. So any and all of those working together is why we were able to get a patent on ours. But those are the things that we would recommend when you're looking for a sleep mask.
Everybody's face shape is different. Your features are different sizes and shapes. And so, to have one mask that you can actually mold to your personal features and fits your head and allows you to sleep on your back, on your side, on your stomach, however you want to, without any kind of bumps or big Velcro humps or anything, is what we were going for. And, we even thought a lot of people men and women have braids and ponies. So we wanted the strap to accommodate the wearer to put any hair through the middle of the strap or to help them position the mask on their head and face the way it's comfortable for them. So we were hoping to give everybody a lot of options to achieve the 100% darkness and to also be comfortable when they slept.
So what are some other tools in the toolkit from Inactive that help people to sleep better, especially, again, keeping in mind for this crew, especially our regular shift workers? What are some things they can add to their toolkit to help them with this?
We have what we call the Sleep 7 playbook that's actually on our website, and you can get to it pretty easy. And it's 7 steps. It's based on cognitive behavioral insomnia therapy. And it's really, there's 7 steps to everything, right? 7 steps to being successful, 7 steps to better habits. And we adapted that to 7 steps to better sleep. And we call it the Sleep 7 playbook, which incorporates a lot of the things that we talked about, make sure that you are setting your alarm for no earlier than 7 to 9 hours. Make sure that your room temperature is super cool. Make sure that your sleeping space is just that. It's a safe place to go to sleep, and you're not working, also guilty, but you're not working, reading, eating in the space that you're supposed to be sleeping. So they're really good 7 steps to helping you cue your brain again so that you say, I'm going to start getting into this routine. I'm automatically going to cue my body that it's time to sleep, and then your body starts to work for you.
We can link that in your
That'd be
podcast
great.
notes if you want to, Darian, because it is science backed, and the CBTI that Jill was just talking about, research has shown that it is the most effective intervention for insomnia. And so we really did base it on science, and it addresses everything from habit to sleep culture, teaming up and supporting other people.
Community is important.
Affirmations, visualizations, all of it. So it's all condensed into 7 easy steps that I think that your audience could help to share with shift workers and others. We were just talking with firefighters who said that they just need to wrap their heads around getting everybody comfortable with it's time to go to sleep, even if it's in the daytime, because most of their calls are at night. They all report to their first shift earlier in the evening, but they don't go to bed necessarily early. So they're working to change that together, not just, one person at a time, but doing it as a whole group.
It makes a lot of sense. I was thinking too a little bit about, Jill, you mentioned the setting your alarm clock for the 7 to 9 hours.
Mhm.
This is not a topic I think I've discussed when I've talked about sleep in the past. Do we think that people don't do that regularly? Why would people set it for less than that? Let's talk about that.
I think they just say, "Oh, I haven't gone to sleep yet, and all of a sudden it's midnight, and I have to be up at 6." So go to bed at 10 and still set it for 6, and you're getting your 7 to 9 hours. Or, when you start to get into a habit and a sleep warm up, and I'm honestly speaking from personal experience here, Lori will vouch, I was a horrible sleeper. Sleep also begets sleep. Doctors will tell you that. So the more you can sleep, the more you will sleep if you allow your body to. And I went from probably 4.5, 5 hours tonight to 6.5 or 7 hours a night, just because I didn't get up at 5:30 or 6. Or, I started backing things up, and I also started getting deeper REM sleep. In the beginning, I was like getting really short cycles and waking up all the time. But then I was like, oh, it's not time to wake up yet. So I started, training myself, and I just didn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
The 7 to 9 hours is for a reason. And that is, it gives your body enough time to go through the required 4 to 5 REM cycles that really do all the work in your body while you're sleeping.
Yeah, that kind of sleep opportunity time. I just don't think enough people give themselves enough of that.
Right.
And when I talk to clients about their sleep, sometimes I'm actually not sure if they're telling me the truth
Oh,
about their sleep.
we're all
It's
in
kind of like,
denial.
right? It's kind of like the old term, like people often overestimate how much they exercise and underestimate how much they eat. And I
Yeah,
think add sleep to this, that people
That's
often
right.
overestimate how much they're sleeping.
journal
When if
your
you,
sleep. We talk about that
right?
too.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Because I don't think people are asleep because they'll say, okay, these are the parameters. Here's our training program for sleep. But then it always, they were doom scrolling, they were on their phone, and then all of a sudden the time gets away, and then that opportunity. So I think that's another important part of the conversation is just honesty about your sleep
Yep.
habits. You know,
I think
My cue was I was getting sick a lot. I actually ended up with pneumonia. I was in the hospital. I called L'Oreal, and that was my biggest wake up moment. Since then, it's been 2 years. I haven't had a cold. I haven't been sick at all since I started. Like, I was like, it's got to be sleep because, I was trying to do everything else right.
Lori, were you going to say something in addition to that?
Just, I think that people don't realize, they don't think people notice that they look tired or that they're not as sharp as they usually are. But people notice. They notice.
Good one.
And so I think
Yeah.
if you have clients who come in one day and look tired, I think that you're doing them a favor by saying, you look tired. How'd you sleep last night? What time did you go to bed? That doesn't have to take up your whole session, but it could be an important reminder that I notice, I see you, and you're better. You can do better and be healthier.
Yeah, it's just such a interesting conversation. As I experience this a lot with clients, and maybe this is a little different thing, but I think similar. And again, I think not talked about is, when I ask somebody, get with them, hey, how are you feeling today? And if their answer is consistently just okay, like it's never good, or it's
Mm-hmm.
just I'm like, this is probably a sleep issue here. I mean, how
Totally.
can your day always be just okay all the time? Like, and so it's really talking to them like, hey, your performance, sleep is the foundation of this performance, and amongst a lot of other things. But I really think it's a massive cure all for most emotional issues that happen
Oh,
with people. They're very uneven with poor sleep. Jill's like, this is the
100%.
hands up episode. Raise your hand if this is you.
There have been studies that have shown, just addressing the actual performance, not the mood, but that if two teams, all things being equal, play a game, the team that slept better the night before will win every time, hands down. So it's so interesting to see that on another day, if a different team slept better, then people will play better. I mean, and so apply that across the board to everything we've been talking about: your mood, your creativity, your decision making, your accuracy, your ability to be injury free in any kind of workout, or anything that you do. It really is across the board, the foundational factor, as you said, Darian, that can really help keep you on the
Are we
better
seeing this?
side of the equation.
Are we seeing teams like actually focus on this? I mean, as much as, I mean, obviously, if as athlete teams are actually traveling with each other, they're going to different places, they're at different hotels and stuff. Are the actual coaches and organizations saying, hey, this is a performance issue and
Yeah.
we're going to implement a protocol for this? Are we seeing more of that?
Yes, we work with a lot of the NFL teams. They consider our sleep mask to be part of the performance equipment. In fact, so we have a travel case that not only keeps the mask, bacteria and dust free and moisture resistant, but also kind of looks cool, but it gives the sleep mask an actual place. And then with the teams especially, but also with companies and other customers that we have, when we have sort of bulk or team orders, we're able to apply the team logo onto the other side of our mask with the team's permission, which then signals to the members of the team that this is company or team issued performance equipment. This is part of the protocol. It's as important as your helmet in football. It has our
Mm,
logo on it, and you need to use it as part of the team. That said, so they are using these. The NFLPA just bought inactivators for all of the athletes traveling overseas this year, which is 7 teams.
that's a lot of
So
games this year too coming up. Yeah.
exactly. But the other side of that equation is a lot of the coaches, and this includes NFL team coaches, are saying, we tell these guys to sleep until we're blue in the face, but we can't be in the in the hotel room with them the night before the game. They all obviously have times they have to go to sleep, but they can't police actual sleep. And players are on their phones and whatever,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
co-sleeping with another player sometimes.
Right.
So it's difficult for everybody, but they are really trying to implement protocols and sleep cultures.
Well, it's interesting too. Like, I often think coaches and trainers are some of the worst sleepers too. Have some of the worst, like coach culture often celebrates, especially NFL coaches, of staying up, game planning all night, sleeping at the office, sleep being a very tenuous term, on a
Yeah.
couch or some unideal situation. So it's interesting that organizations are investing more into sleep, but they should be investing to the coaches too. If they're going to tell the players, the coaches also need to be more mindful of this because a lot of coaches have very poor sleep habits. And just like trainers, a lot of trainers have hugely poor sleep habits. I know this. I used to run clubs, hire tons of trainers, and our trainers were some of the worst sleep deprived people in the club, which
Mm,
is so crazy to think
yeah.
about.
You have to walk the walk. I mean, your clients, your players notice when you're not your best too. So
Yeah.
totally agree. And it's so
That's the
true.
funny thing, right? People notice when you're tired. I want to key in on that because I think we try to put on this facade that no one, they don't see this. Like it's, and like, no, you're in a bad mood all the time. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it is. And I think we just don't want people to see that, but it's so obvious for
It
that. I
is.
always tell my clients because they say, Darren, you're always very even keeled. You're always in a pretty good mood. It's like, because I sleep regularly, very well. All life is training to me. Everything in life is training. I approach it
That's
all
right.
the same way. And sleep is no different. You have to train to be a great sleeper. Most people I know have to do that. Very few people I know are like, oh man, I just knock out 9, 10, no problem. It's like pretty rare people in life.
That's true. That is true. But it also, if people would just have the right attitude about it, it can be very simple at the same time.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's a
being
struggle too. I
consistent.
think the attitude, it's like when someone tells you, I've tried everything. I just can't sleep. And I'm like, have you tried everything? Like,
Well, and also maybe reminding them we were all born knowing how to sleep. Look at a baby. Babies sleep because they know how much sleep they need when they're tired. So we all fundamentally know how to sleep. We get all stressed out about it. We get all in our heads about it. We are in denial. We're doing all the things we do in life, especially when, if you're a high performer or you're driven in some way. But at the end of the day, if you apply some of the discipline that you're applying in a gym or at work to sleep, you'll get results.
love it. That's awesome. Well, this has been a pretty enlightening conversation. I love coming back to sleep, and especially with this population that we're seeing so many people work like this. And as we get into more remote work and different forms of working, we're going to continue to see this issue pop up. So thank you both for coming on to talk about this and let everyone know about Inactive Company and how they can connect with it. We'll certainly have stuff in the show notes about it, but would love to just give some more information about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Jill, you want to take that one?
You can go to inactiveco.com. You can follow us on social media. We also are happy to come speak to any organization or event that's happening. We actually are working right now with the LA Fire Department who want us to come out and talk about sleep. We go to talk to NFL teams to talk about sleep. We can tailor what we call a sleep briefing for you. We can do it personally. So yeah, they can either reach out to us directly at sleep@inactiveco.com or also DM us on social media and we'll respond.
Wonderful. Thank you both for being on today. I really appreciate it. To talk about a topic that's really important. And we all raised our hand for some things that happened today, but we're guilty of some of this stuff too. I love relatability. It's so important in life. We're not here telling you we're perfect about any of this stuff. We try hard like everyone else, but all coming from a place of wanting people to be their best selves. And to leave with this, there's actually tremendous amounts of research. And one research study has over, I think, 500,000 people over longitudinally over time, shows that sleeping better actually helps to mitigate a lot of the symptoms of depression and anxiety. So just
Mhm.
sleeping better will make you
Absolutely.
feel better on your day-to-day daily life. Thanks, Jill and Lori. Appreciate you both.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care.
All right, that's